Once again, welcome to the dedication service for the McDonald brothers. I'm Stephen McDaniel. I'm Southeast Region Convener. I have a personal connection with this battlefield. My 7th great grandfather served as a brigade major in the Continental Army. He was wounded on this field and went back to Abbeville, South Carolina, where he survived to the ripe old age of 88. But along the way, he did many numerous things. But yet, we're here to remember the ones that gave their lives for our country, our independence. Basically, that's all I have to say. And now I'm going to turn it over to little Godfrey if he catches another minute or two of his breath.
Well, Steve, thank you very much indeed for your introduction there. This is a very special sport. I can only apologise more than words can say that, first of all, being delayed in the meeting that I've just come out of, and then, would you believe it, turning the wrong way coming out in the hotel. And had the Revolutionary War been fought that way, it might well have had a different outcome. However, better late than never. And I know we're gathered here this afternoon to really commemorate the two McDonald brothers, and their story is really quite amazing. To think that two members of the same family, first of all, could not see each other for an enormous number of years, and then actually get together on opposing sides in the battlefield. I believe I've been told that they both survived, and they then became actually quite close again. It is a great pleasure for me to be here this afternoon, and I look forward to the ceremony. Thank you very much indeed.
Anyone else who would like to speak? All right, guys. Right now we're going to enjoy an interpreter presentation from some of our staff here at Coastal Heritage Society. You can see this is Nathan Nightingale here. He is not part of Coastal Heritage Society, but he is bagpiping for us today. He's actually usually at Wormsloe, a state historic site. You guys might want to take a trip out there if you have not been out there already. We have Aaron Bradford here. He is our Coastal Heritage Society Military Interpretation Coordinator and Public Historian. Ray Christie here in the center, he is a Coastal Heritage Society public historian. And we have Harris Hoyne, he is a Coastal Heritage Society historical interpreter, so please enjoy.
All right, well, I admire your devotion and courage to remain here under the blazing sun in a hot, sultry day here in August in Savannah. However, in August of 1779, the War for American Independence, or as the British refer to it perhaps, something of the rebellion over here in the colonies, has been raging for 4 long bloody years. And early on during this great war, most of the attention that the British had was up in the north. That scoundrel by the name of George Washington, I suppose, has a number of defeats but manages to keep a force in the field. But relatively speaking, things are rather quiet down here in the south. In June of 1776, the British forces did try to take Charlestown. You might have heard of Charleston. It's called Charlestown in 1776, and were repulsed. And when this happens, after stealing 2,000 giant hogsheads or casks full of rice earlier that same year out of Savannah, things are pretty quiet down here in the south. So that explains why it's almost 4 years into the war, when the British realized that out of all the colonies, the 13th colony, just north of the 14th British colony, which is in East Florida and St. Augustine, is the youngest, weakest, and smallest of the colonies. So the British say, why not dispatch a mighty force to come down here to Savannah in Georgia to tear 1 star and 1 stripe from this rag, and then sweep north through the Carolinas. So, right about where you're standing, we're sitting rather on December 29th, 1778, is where you had the almost complete annihilation of the 800 rebels who were here defending Savannah. You also had Lieutenant Colonel Alexander McDonald that we're remembering here today. He was Lieutenant Colonel of the 71st Regiment of Foot and the Fraser's Highlanders. So I'm actually standing before you in the uniform of one of those Highlanders. My buttons actually say 71 upon them. But as Campbell was colonel of this regiment, or excuse me, lieutenant colonel as well, sailing down here from Sandy Hook in the Jerseys, he had some of his soldiers go ahead and shorten down coats and prepare themselves to serve as dragoons, men who can fight on horseback and foot. So when 3,500 British showed up, including those Highlanders, whose battle cry in Gaelic means, "I'll eat your liver," they managed, just on the outskirts of town, to launch their main attack, while at the same time launched a flank attack through the swamps and marshes right close to where the DeSoto Hilton Hotel stands today. They erupted out of those swamps and marshes and overwhelmed the Patriot Rear Guard with George Walton, one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence for Savannah, and James Jackson. Once this happened, there was a race for the very lives of those Patriots right past where we're standing, Cactus McGilvery's Gate on the eastern edge of town. Out of those 800 rebels who started, 500 are captured, 83 are killed, and many of the Highlanders, when they come upon a wounded Patriot, instead of sending him to a hospital, rip out his intestines with the bayonet. So, the British are easily able to take Savannah. They go all the way up the Savannah River to Augusta. They bring back the royal governor. And out of all the 13 colonies, George is the only one to have the royal governor return and crown rule to be restored. The British then sweep up across South Carolina and come this close to taking Charlestown before they back down. It's now June of 1779. 800 of the best British forces, including the Highlanders and also the Hessians, are not in Savannah. 50 miles north of us in Beaufort, South Carolina by water, there are only about 1,200 redcoats in Savannah. When you see, just to the left of Mr. Hoyne there, who's portraying a South Carolina militia patriot, we have Mr. Christie here. He is portraying one of the French soldiers, 5,000 strong, who realize they have a chance to catch the British by surprise and try to take Savannah back and deal a mortal blow to their mortal enemies of the French. So 5,000 French, 2,000 Americans will descend upon Savannah. But can anyone tell me what we have to worry about sailing to the coast in September?
Hurricanes.
Hurricanes, that's exactly right. As soon as the French show up near the coast, hurricane-like winds are going to smash into the French fleet and show everyone everything down. Also, Mr. Hoyne, can you tell us the name of your commander in 1779?
William Jasper.
Oh, well, I'm sorry, the general of your army?
Benjamin Lincoln.
Now, you ever heard of this Benjamin Lincoln? He is as wide as he is tall. That's what they say about General Lincoln. He's also known to fall asleep right in the middle of meetings. They said he has sleep apnea, that he can't help it. But if your general falls asleep right in the middle of a meeting, it's not very good for morale. When the French appear 13 miles east of us toward the ocean, General Lincoln and those Patriots are 20 miles up the Savannah River in Perrysburg. So that's going to explain by the time the French come up and the Americans come down, we're ready for them. Right here is the original location of the Spring Hill Redoubt. This granite outline is the original location of a ditch, and this redoubt can hold 110 South Carolina Loyalist militia, neighbors of Mr. Hoyne. This is a civil war, brother against brother sometimes down here in Savannah. Also some redcoats and 60th afoot. But just to the right of the Spring Hill Redoubt, the morning of October 9th, are 6 British cannon. Atop that road, which was here the morning of the battle, 2 giant 18-pounder British guns. You see the light post sticking up to your left. That's the Carolina Redoubt. 90 North Carolina riflemen, which are sharpshooters, 75 more Georgia Loyalist volunteers, and finally 6 more guns. So we have 14 cannons and 2 forts on the outskirts of Savannah here the morning of October 9th. The French and Americans failed to blast us out after a 5-day-long bombardment, firing 1,000 shots into Savannah, so they're getting quite desperate. Now, in addition to the Spring Hill Redoubt, you see we have some of the Patriot forces forming right here. If you look behind you, you can see the tops of trees. The morning of this battle, this hill that we're sitting on right now, Spring Hill, goes up to where that fence is and drops down. That's a wide open valley. So, you'll have to take my word for it, but just beyond that building is a bridge. We're less than a mile south of the Savannah River right now. So, after a 5-day-long bombardment, the wretched Allies realize they can't blast us out, they can't starve us out, they got to attack or call the whole thing off. And do you think that the French commander told Charles Henry Comte d'Estaing and Charles MacDonald, who is serving as an aide to one of his generals, can just pack up and sail away without a fight? If you are a nobleman, you pack up and sail away without a fight, what do you think people might call you? Just Scotty's not here to hear you say that. Those are fighting words that must be defended by a duel if you were to utter that in the presence of a nobleman. And since there are 5,000 French and a mere 2,000 Americans, it looks like the French are calling the shots. So at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Corporal Hoyne to tell you the American perspective the morning of this battle.
The plan for this battle was to leave at midnight, arrive around 3 a.m., seize these redoubts within an hour, and have our city back by sunrise. But there's an old saying, the first casualty of any battle is the plan. Due to several delays in the French camps, with soldiers actually bickering over who would march where, there will be several delays in the French ranks, and they will not leave for almost an hour after they were intended to. By the time that the French columns begin to arrive at Spring Hill to try to attack the British lines, the tides will begin to roll in. As one soldier writes in his diary, he states that the muck was so thick, it would suck the very boots from your feet. As these men march, though, they have also been sworn to not fire their muskets until they are close enough to see the whites of another man's eyes. This is so that they can maintain the element of surprise. But that element of surprise is shot. The British actually sing songs and bang pots and pans in their camps as if to say, we know you are here. Even so, the French and the Patriot lines begin to approach the redoubt. They make their way through the muck. They clear an abattis, the first line of defense of the British, and they are fired upon. As the British open fire, wave after wave of musket shots rake into the French soldiers, and one man states that it sounded like swarms of lead hornets whizzing past your ears every couple of seconds. And yet they press on and on. As this first wave nears the redoubt, shots will ring out, and D'Estaing will actually be struck from his horse. He will fall, he will remount, he will continue to ride forward, and after several more shots hit him, he will decide that it would be awfully prudent to retreat. The first wave will be repelled. The second wave sees South Carolinians coming forward to attack the redoubt once more. This wave makes it a little bit further. However, do you believe that anyone informed our allies of their delays? No, so this gentleman with this red flag right here is actually representative of yet another force present in this battle, a Polish cavalry who would try to sweep behind the British ranks, Polish cavalry, who would try to sweep behind the British ranks and take out their artillery from behind. But with this redoubt unsecured, as the Polish cavalry arrives, cannons will fire grape shot into them, and large portions of their horses, their commanding elements, will be taken out. At this point, for the South Carolinians, we have observed, as D'Estaing, as Casimir Pulaski, as many of our officers have been shot in front of us, but we continue to march on forward. The name that I mentioned earlier for you folks, mistakenly, is a sergeant by the name of William Jasper. This young South Carolinian will lead his men shoulder to shoulder with whatever allies are marching with them at this point. He will take the banner of the 2nd South Carolina. They will march on up the side of the redoubt. Once they have made their way down the trench, up the side, they believe that we have come close enough to victory. The men will shout, "The day is ours!"
Then Sergeant Jasper, cut down by British bayonet. You have the same flag there, Mr. Wheeler. Mr. Wheeler, who is now protected, Lieutenant Bush will grab the flag back. When he grabs the flag from the wounded sergeant, he'll be shot at point-blank range. The flag will fall down to the bottom of the ditch. Lieutenant Bush's body will roll down atop the flag. Now, amidst the fighting here, Spring Hill Redoubt, during the initial French attack, some of these South Carolina militia, when they heard the French battle cry, "Vive le Roi!" along with the king, panicked and started to waver. At that critical moment, Captain David Tawes led 30 Scottish Highlander Dragoons, the 71st Regiment of Foot. Let's give a huzzah for those Highlanders together on 3. 1, 2, 3. Huzzah! Huzzah! Led them forward to plug the line. At this moment, Captain Tawes had pistol in left and saber in right. Captain Tawes, amidst this furious fighting, dispatched one Frenchman. I'm sorry there, Mr. Christie. One Frenchman with the saber. He dispatched a second Frenchman with the saber. When he had his saber inside a third, he was then cut down himself. Captain Tawes was renowned by his men to be a very noble and brave soldier, and his loss was quite mourned. But with the reinforcement of Captain Tawes and his Highlanders, the British were able to plug the line. And after much intense fighting back and forth, the shattered broken American lines were forced into retreat as the British were sweeping these shattered broken lines across the ranks. 250 British Grenadiers of the 60th Regiment of Foot, this is their battle flag right here, and also some Royal Marines. They then saw approaching across the field from beyond the smokestack behind you a very impressive sight. So I'm now going to turn it over to Mr. Christie to tell you what happens at this crucial moment, about 45 minutes or so into this battle.
Now what has happened is the French and American attack has failed. These men are turning around, they're running back to the covers of the trees. One problem with these muskets, ladies and gentlemen, it's very difficult to do this musket drill while you're running for your life. So these men are exposed. The British know this. They line their men up to an attack to wipe this army off the face of the earth. 2,000 men out in the open. The last reserve to the south were these Haitians, 500 free black men from Haiti, or Saint Domingue, which is part of the French Empire. These men were dressed as I am, trained and equipped just like the French regulars. Without orders, they will stand on the battlefield and advance. And they'll blunt the British counterattack long enough for the rest of the fighting force to make it to the trees. They did this, ladies and gentlemen, at great personal cost. One place on the battlefield you do not want to be, folks, the rear guard, because no one's protecting you. So to the great personal cost of those men, those 500 Haitians, the Americans and French made it back to the tree line and the army was saved. Battle's over. Time for the first shooting to the time the men get back to the tree line has been 55 minutes. This entire battle lasts less than an hour. And that entire hour, 800 men have fallen. In that time, folks, over 750 of them were the Allies and only 14 are British. This is a tremendously lopsided victory for the British. Admiral Stein himself is wounded 3 times. The second man is killed. Caspar Pulaski is killed. The force is shattered. The French will get back on their ships and leave. The Americans go back to Charleston. Very next year, the same British force will take Charleston, along with half of the American army. Those French soldiers, those Haitians who were there, will stand with the Americans in Charleston during the siege, and when these black men are captured by the British, these free men are sold off to slavery. So with the idea is, folks, that we realize that the many layers of sacrifice that had been done here. Now, another year later, the same British force is outside Yorktown, running low on supplies, waiting for the British Navy, behind redoubts and trenches. But there the Americans have learned. So, but with Washington Rochambeau in charge, the combined French and American force, instead of one grand assault, does small assaults, taking one redoubt at a time. Before the assault begins, they make sure each column is led by a bilingual officer as they communicate during the assault. And there, the Americans and French win at Yorktown. So even though today, October 9, 1779 was a defeat, the seeds of victory that made this country great started here. And it's important to remember, ladies and gentlemen, why these folks were here. There was a document written in 1776 that explained what these men were doing. If you know the parts, make sure you chime in. Behold, these truths be self-evident. All men are created, endowed by their certain inalienable. What document is that, folks? The Declaration of Independence. The Constitution got written until 1787. The Declaration of Independence in 1776 was just ink on paper. It took 8 years of grinding conflict to make those words come true. The sacrifices of families, like McDonald family, made those things come true. This is a global war, and the things that happen here, folks, reverberate throughout the world. It doesn't take much time for us to look on TV today, folks, to see that the fight for freedom is still going on. We're not asked to fight to face cannonballs in the face or face bayonets or rifle bullets, but we are asked to stand up for our rights. So that time comes, we must honor these people, not just with memories, but with our actions, how we treat each other every single day. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to continue on the ceremony. So whoever next will come up, and we will conclude the ceremony. Thank you very much.
So whether it's Lieutenant Colonel Alexander in the 71st Regiment, or whether it's Charles MacDonald, who is stand by side with the commander of the French rearguard here, leading these Haitians forward, the Clan MacDonald is certainly represented here in this field where we're standing. Now, as a salute, we shall fire 3 volleys of musketry. We will not be able to achieve a proper 21-gun salute, but we will fire 3 volleys. So, you'll fire in this direction, so if you're sensitive about noises, you're invited to cover your ears. Squad, shoulder your fire. Push your fire. Have it. cock your firelock. Handle your cartridge. Prime. Shot pan. Charge with cartridge. Draw your framer. Red down cartridge. Return your framer. Shoulder your firelock. Bank ready. Freeze on. Fire. Top firelock. Prime and load. Bank ready. Freeze on. Fire. Top firelock. Prime and load. Bank ready. Freeze on. Fire. Half-cock firelock. Shut head. Shoulder firelock. To the right heel. March. Take care. Halt. Ladies and gentlemen, we ask for you to please stand. We shall now go to the position of present arm. This is how you render honor. When you have a musket on your shoulder, you are invited to uncover, put your hand over your heart, salute, whatever you wish to do. As we seek to honor and remember those who served here on this hallowed ground. Present arms. Shoulder your firelock. Order your firelock. Ease arms, clasp hands, rest. Very well. All right.
Thank you.